Tiba al-Ali was born in 2000 in Iraq, a country located in the Middle East. In 2017, when she was 17 years old, she and her family went on a trip to Turkey, a neighboring country to Iraq. On that occasion, the young woman liked the country so much that when the family trip ended, she refused to return to Iraq and said she would stay in Turkey. Thus, Tiba's family returned to Iraq, while she stayed living alone in Turkey. According to sources, she made this decision because she did not have a good relationship with her family, especially with her father and brother. Her family did not like her decision at all, and after that, their already poor relationship worsened even more. In Turkey, Tiba had the idea to create a YouTube channel, a vlog-style channel, where she showed her daily life routine in Istanbul, the country's former capital, along with other topics from her everyday life. Soon, she began gaining subscribers and some recognition on the platform. Later, she met a young man named Muhammad, to whom she became engaged, and she started filming videos with him. Tiba saw this as her opportunity to become a digital influencer and began investing in it. The young woman produced various types of content and often posted many photos on her social media. Her videos generally showed a busy and happy life. In these videos, you can see her doing everyday things. In one, she organizes a surprise birthday party for her fiancé, and in others, she shows the places they visited together. Tiba's fiancé is of Syrian origin, and they met shortly after she moved to Turkey, as I already mentioned. The couple was very happy and going through a stable phase in their relationship. Tiba even got her fiancé's name tattooed as a declaration of love, and they planned to get married at the end of the year. In January 2023, when Tiba was 22 years old, she decided to return to Iraq to visit her family. She already had a trip planned to Iraq to visit her relatives, but it was scheduled for mid-year. However, when her mother called saying she missed her terribly, Tiba decided to move the visit up to January. At the time, Tiba also planned to cheer for her country's national team, as the 25th Gulf Cup was taking place, and one of the matches would be in Iraq. So, in January 2023, as planned, Tiba went to Iraq, while her fiancé stayed in Turkey. On the 31st, she arranged to meet her mother at a friend's house in Baghdad so they could catch up. Tiba did this because she didn't have a good relationship with her father, so she preferred to meet only her mother at this friend's house rather than going to the family home. However, when she arrived at the friend's house, Tiba found her entire family waiting for her, including more people than just her mother and father. Tiba's family drugged her and took her against her will to the province of Diwania, where the family lived more than 100 miles away from Baghdad. When Tiba woke up at her family's home, she was furious and got into a heated argument with her father. The argument lasted for some time until Tiba got tired and decided to sleep for a while in her old room. While she was sleeping, fueled by the anger he held against his daughter, her father went into her room and attacked her, suffocating her with his hands until she stopped breathing. Tiba had no chance to defend herself and died. After the crime, the father voluntarily turned himself in to the police and confessed everything. However, he only turned himself in because there are no laws in Iraq prohibiting domestic violence, so he knew he would hardly be punished for what he did. In a police statement, Tiba's father said he took his daughter's life to restore the family's honor. According to him, his daughter brought shame to the family by becoming a digital influencer and exposing herself the way she did. Later, the man told the same thing to the country's press during an interview. Tiba's father and perpetrator of the crime did not have his identity revealed by the Iraqi media. Saad Maan, a spokesperson for the Iraqi Ministry of Interior, said that the father and daughter had a long history of family disputes. He also said that before the young woman moved to Turkey, the police had gone to the family's home several times to try to ease the situation. Despite this, some police officers said they were surprised and never imagined that the fights between father and daughter would end this way. Saad Maan gave no further details about the nature of these disputes or how the police handled them, but he emphasized that the government was not at fault, even though the country's laws practically favor violent men and discriminate against women and girls. An anonymous police source said that this family conflict had been going on since 2015, when Tiba was 15 years old, and that at the time the police didn't pay much attention to the potential consequences. A few days after the crime, recordings of conversations between Tiba and her father from months before the crime surfaced. In these recordings, it's possible to hear the father angry about the fact that she lived alone in Turkey. Then she accuses her brother of having taken advantage of her when she was little. These recordings were shared on social media by a friend of Tiba and collected by women's rights activists. Human rights defender Hannah Edwar confirmed the recordings were authentic and said one of the reasons the young woman stayed in Turkey instead of returning to Iraq with her family was because of her brother, who abused her when she was little. In these recordings, Tiba tells her family that they knew everything her brother was doing but never did anything to stop it. The Iraqi Observatory for Human Rights also confirmed the authenticity of the recordings. In some of Tiba's social media posts, people who knew her commented that she had been threatened by her family for some time. Still, she agreed to meet her mother at a friend's house in Baghdad because despite everything, she still cared about her mother. This clearly shows that the family set a trap for her, and we can say the crime was premeditated. The crime against Tiba caused outrage not only in Iraq, but also among all who follow the case, especially because the young woman had been threatened by her family for months. Many Middle Eastern media outlets described the crime as an honor killing. Several protests took place in Iraq demanding justice for Tiba. Many activists gathered to demand a law against domestic violence and to draw attention to the increasing violence against women in the country. Several people also called for a large protest in front of the Baghdad courthouse. A former member of parliament from the country, Ala Talabani, said that women in Iraqi society are held hostage by outdated customs due to the absence of deterrent laws and government measures that do not address domestic violence. The crime against Tiba also sparked protests on social media demanding justice in response to the crime. The hashtag Tiba Ali spread widely across social media in Iraqi circles. A few days after the crime, security forces prevented about 20 activists from demonstrating outside the country's Supreme Judicial Council. After that, they decided to protest on a road leading to the building. Some protesters held signs asking to stop taking women's lives, while others said Tiba's father should be held accountable for the crime. A United Nations mission in Iraq, in a statement, condemned what they called an abominable crime and urged the Baghdad government to enact a law that explicitly criminalizes violence against women. The crime against Tiba al-Ali reminded Iraqis of what happened to another Iraqi woman, Malak al-Zubaydi, who was forced by her own husband to set herself on fire in 2020. Also in 2020, in a city bordering Iran, a 58-year-old doctor took his wife's life because she refused to allow him to sell lands in her name and keep all the money for himself. Despite the protests, there were also those who defended the crime against Tiba. On social media, for example, one man wrote that women should behave or face the same fate as Tiba, while another user criticized those who were upset about the crime against a girl who abandoned her family to live with her boyfriend. Tiba al-Ali was not the only female influencer in the country to lose her life. Earlier, a woman named Iman Sami Magdid, also known as Maria, had her life taken by relatives in March 2022. The crime, like Tiba's, was also described in local media as an honor crime. In Iraq, such crimes committed by family members are frequent. Available data suggests that honor crimes have been a long-standing and recurring phenomenon under successive Iraqi governments. The UN condemned the crime as a regrettable reminder of violence and injustice and called for Tiba's father to be held accountable. The Iraqi police are still investigating the circumstances of the crime, but the country's penal code leaves little room for prosecution, so Tiba's father will likely never face charges. In some of her videos, Tiba herself spoke about the threats she received from her family. Although she appeared happy in most videos, in some you can see her worried and distressed about family issues. In one video, she even gets emotional talking about it. I found no information about Tiba al-Ali's funeral or burial, nor whether Muhammad, her fiancé, spoke about the tragedy. Protests against the crime continue, though on a smaller scale. Protesters hope the international attention the case received will somehow force a conviction and fair punishment for Tiba's father, despite the high chance of impunity. They say it's never too much to fight for justice, especially for someone who is no longer here to fight for herself. And you? Tell me in the comments if you already knew this story and what you thought about it. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.